They barked, they snapped, they swore they'd never follow him. But now, they eat beside him, in silence. What happened to the dogs who dared to challenge King Charles? In every pack, there's a moment where the fight for dominance hits a boiling point. And in this shelter-turned battleground, that moment centered around one dog, King Charles. He wasn't born a leader. He didn't grow up in comfort or command. He came from the dirt, from the chaos, from the fear. But somehow, when the barking stopped and the dust settled, he was the one still standing. But what happened to the challengers? The loud ones? The bold ones? The dogs who tried to dethrone him? Let's talk about them, because their silence now speaks louder than their barks ever did. First, there was Tyrant. Loud, reactive, and known for snapping first and asking questions never. Tyrant wasn't just aggressive, he was ambitious. The kind of dog who didn't need a reason to dominate. He just needed opportunity. Then came Rocky. Quieter, but always watching. He didn't lunge like Tyrant. He waited, calculated. Rocky was the kind of dog that would test a leader's patience with silence, posture, and cold stares. The kind who didn't bark, but still made others uneasy. And they weren't alone. A handful of others tested Charles. Side eyes, crowding, blocking access to food. These weren't full fights. These were chess moves in a game of canine politics. And in the middle of all that tension stood Charles. What makes Charles different isn't that he fought harder. It's that he didn't fight at all. While Tyrant barked and Rocky glared, Charles stood still, calm, eyes forward. No fear, no drama, just presence. It wasn't passivity, it was power under control. Dog behavior experts call this non-reactive confidence, a trait only the most stable leaders have. It's the opposite of dominance by aggression. It's dominance through restraint. And the more Charles refused to engage, the more their barks became meaningless. Pack dynamics are built on energy. When the energy shifts, so does the hierarchy. Day by day, Charles' calm began to infect the others. Tyrant's bark no longer made heads turn. Rocky's challenges stopped getting responses. Even the younger dogs started following Charles' lead, walking where he walked, pausing when he paused. This wasn't submission through fear. This was leadership through stability. In a pack full of noise, Charles was the only one who brought quiet. And quiet, in the middle of chaos, is power. One thing most people don't realize is that true alpha behavior isn't loud. It's not the dog on top of the pile. It's the one who doesn't flinch when others try to provoke him. It's the one who walks into a group and the group parts, not because they're afraid, but because they've accepted who he is. And that's exactly what happened. The fights never came, not because Charles ran from them, but because the challengers started realizing something terrifying. They already lost the moment they tried to provoke him. One video, one moment that showed everything. Charles, Tyrant, Rocky, and the rest gathered around the same feeding area. No growls, no lunges, not even tension, just dogs eating together. What you're watching isn't just peace, it's the ultimate show of power. Because in the dog world, sharing food is a sign of trust, submission, and acceptance. And Charles, he wasn't guarding the bowl. He wasn't stealing bites. He was calmly eating, surrounded by the very dogs who once tested him. as if nothing ever happened, but everything happened. This is what victory looks like, not a fight, but the absence of one. So what really happened to the dogs who challenged him? Nothing and everything. Tyrant stopped barking. Rocky stopped posturing. The others stopped circling. They didn't disappear. They weren't punished, but they changed. Because when the pack senses a leader has emerged, the smartest thing they can do is fall in line. This isn't a fairy tale. It's dog psychology in its rawest form. When the alpha is real, even the loudest rivals go quiet. King Charles didn't become a leader by force. He didn't need to prove anything. He let others burn themselves out trying to challenge him. And when the time came, he didn't retaliate. He just existed. And that existence, grounded, centered, calm, was enough to shift the entire pack. Now, he leads without resistance, because he earned it, not demanded it. In a world that still sees dominance as brute strength, Charles reminds us of something more powerful. Real leaders don't make noise, they make order. They barked, they tested, they tried to rise above him, but in the end, they laid down their pride and sat beside their king. This is the legacy of Charles, not the dog who fought for power, but the one who made power come to him.